Good morning, Nikki.
Good morning.
So, welcome to Ginny Unfiltered.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always good to be with you.
Okay, so I just was talking, Nikki, before you came on air, that there were 3 young people arrested over the weekend. 2 were arrested last week related to extortion, and urging people to come forward if they've got any information as names and photos were published. So, do you have any update for us?
Yes, the Surrey Police Service is asking for any information that people might have about those 3 individuals that were caught. And I just want to let people know that us hearing from you is so important. Every time we hear from the community about what's needed, we've been stepping up to address it. I think one of the things we talked about last time was people want names. They want to see faces when they're there. So we made sure when charges are there, we can release that information. And we're working with the Border Service on that too. And helicopter resources was another request that came from SPS. So the Premier went to the Prime Minister, and now we have better helicopter resources. Another thing that I heard you say really, really powerfully, and that we've heard people say, is that when victims are there on the ground, they need better support for their safety. They're fearful, and they feel like the response for their supports is a problem. So one of the things that we've stepped up is to get more resources on the ground with RCMP, the commitment from the federal government, and better victim supports and better street patrols. So the 3 individuals that were caught recently were because of the Surrey Police Service having the patrols on the ground, and hopefully those helicopter resources will help. So it's just so important that we hear from people about what they're hearing and seeing, and we're going to fight this together. We're going to fight this together. So these people that are trying to tear up the community and have people live in fear will be kicked out and put to an end. So if people have resource or know something, if you're a landlord, you know something, if you're a person that was on the street and you know something, please report it, because we're going to put all the resources in necessary to get them, and we're going to do it with people working together.
So the request for a helicopter came in through various ways. And I think what I'm hearing you say, and what I heard from the Premier and the Prime Minister, was that there is helicopter resources that the Surrey Police Service can use, and they have top priority for that usage.
That's right. That was a request that they had made, and the Premier took that straight to the Prime Minister. And it's I think there's 2 helicopters that are used by police enforcement that were Lower Mainland, but the enhanced helicopter resources to support the particular, like the on-the-ground police operations and community surveillance to combat extortion. So directing that resource towards this issue was something that came from that discussion, and that will help with the on-the-ground safety.
The Premier and the province has put in additional resources for policing and additional resources for protection of victims. So question I have to ask you is, have you had a report from the SPS as to how they're using the resources? Because what we're hearing from the victims is they're not seeing the kind of protection they would expect.
Yeah, when I hear that, Ginny, it really upsets me. I think that the one thing that we expect is that when people feel unsafe, that those systems in place are there to step up to make them feel safe. And so I know that Minister Creer is in regular contact with the on-the-ground police services, and we're careful not to reveal police strategy online or in radio interviews, just because you don't want to tip off anybody that may be adjusting their behavior as a result of what the changes are to the on-the-ground police resources. But every time we hear that, I know I sat with Nina, the minister, with people that were having these frontline experiences because they were victims, and so she's monitoring, and I'm trying to align the on-the-ground work with the Surrey Police Service to make sure that it's addressing that issue, and including us giving more resources to that to the on-the-ground supports, and the 20 RCMP the federal government committed to, that the Premier, in conversations with the Prime Minister, that security will be about on-the-ground resources and responses for people.
One of the things that seems to be hitting people right now is, yes, folks on the ground to the groundwork, is we have a new police service. And we have a new police service with lots of new recruits. And so the intelligence work and the intelligence experience may not be there. Are there additional resources being directed towards the task force so that they can have that intelligence arm working on the ground as well?
Yeah, so that's one of the beauties of the extortion task force, that it's kind of a first of its kind to respond to the extortion crisis, is it brings together that expertise that you're talking about. So any of the police on the front line, that's Surrey Police for a Service or in other municipalities, their police service, that's the first response. They're not alone. They are supported by this extortion task force, which brings together border security, the experts in these types of investigations, the CFC, I always forget the acronym, but that's
CFSU, I do too.
Yeah, thank you. That one, that they're part of it. So it's really kind of the masterminds of how to tackle this type of crime that are supporting all of the police services in the area. And so, I mean, we get updates. There's so much work going on. I think there's 100 search warrants that they're currently underway. We have 13 charges. The things are going working. People are working really hard. I think there was a shooting on Monday, and the arrest and charges were on Wednesday. Recently, the 3 were picked up. We are going to do everything we can to continue to ramp this up so people can feel safe in their community. I think the Premier said that this is a terrorism in slow motion. And when I meet with victims of this, that's how I feel. Their sense of safety has been shattered in their homes. And that can't stand in our province. Like, that can't stand. We have to fight this, and we're going to do it together. And I just want to promise people that every time we hear that something's needed, we're going to step up until we can rid our communities of this type of violence.
Minister, there are also some legislation in Parliament right now that I know BC has supported and advocated for that seem to be stuck, like they're moving at the pace of treacle or they're not moving at all. So can you just highlight the key points and why they are important to tackle crime and public safety?
Yeah, thanks for that. So C-14 is one of the key ones that I was pushing for tougher criminal code laws. So anybody that's involved in extortion needs to be treated appropriately in our justice system. So that means when there's a bail hearing, they need to be held because of the terror that they're committing on the communities and not released. So there's tougher bail rules in there, and there's tougher sentencing. So people that are involved in extortion cases can get tough sentences for their behavior. And it just is a way to acknowledge the harm that this does to communities and how serious these crimes are. That bill is before the federal parliament, and I want it to move quickly. In fact, that's what the Premier said to the Prime Minister and when he was there last week, and just to make it clear that this is important. There's another thing buried in there that I fought for that is maybe not at the front end, but is going to be so important, and that is helping police with better investigation tools. So when they seize a cell phone, because a lot of these things are happening on technology with cell phones, the current law they have to go before the court every few months to get a renewed warrant. So it's very, very tough on the front-line investigators. So I've asked for changes in the law to make it so they can not have to do that when they take a cell phone that's under seizure because it's part of an extortion investigation, they don't have to go back to the court continually and take a lot of resources to keep it. So things like that are part of the behind-the-scenes stuff that I've fought for that are in that bill. We need them to pass quickly because people's lives are at stake here in BC, and we want to send that message to the federal government that this needs to move quickly.
One of the items in one of those pieces of legislation is about applying for refugee status once you've
Mhm.
been arrested or charged, right? So, how would that work?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I think it's made everybody angry, including myself, when we heard that the task force did their job and said and found people that were involved somehow and put a deportation order and a big chunk of them claimed refugee status. I mean, that can't happen, right? Like, we can't have people abusing our system that is rightly for people that have valid refugee claims that are fleeing their country because of violence. So what we need and what that bill will help do is tighten up those rules so you can't abuse the refugee system to get out of criminal issues. A very important change. That's another one that we want to see move quickly. Thanks for raising that.
You know, one of the things is the Premier made it very clear that he has contacted the NDP MPs as well as others to say, please help to get this legislation through so that we can have more tools in our hands. Have you reached out to any MPs to say, please expedite this?
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm reaching out to my federal counterparts. Just last week, I talked to Minister Fraser about trying to see what the strategy was for getting these quickly. Our offices were in touch. And it's a good point. We need to reach every MP. Every MP sitting in Surrey should be advocating for this. Every MP sitting, across the country should be pushing for this. So I'll put that on my to-do list, Jenny.
It's 2 votes. It's 2 votes. That's all it will take, right? And
True.
so the NDP has more than 2 votes. The Bloc has more than 2 votes. And Conservatives have more than 2 votes. So we can get this done if everybody works together. I do have 1 or 2 more questions for you, Minister, because you're here today and they're very important. We have people hitting the streets almost on a daily basis now because they are so worried about extortion. And one of the demands that's coming out, and it was also at the CPC convention, and they passed it with a 91% majority, was what in Americas they call the right to stand your ground, right? Which is the right to arm yourself, right up to taking someone else's life to protect yourself and your home. So that scares me because it hasn't helped America very much. So what would be your message to the community on that?
Yeah, my message is I understand the fear that's making people, and I've met with some people that have said this to me, making people feel like that's necessary. And our job is to make sure that they don't feel that fear, that they feel like the system is responding and keeping them safe. What I worry about is that if people feel like arming themselves, that they're putting themselves in harm, that the escalation of violence that we may see can put innocent people at risk, and including those people that are arming themselves in protection. And I think you're right that we haven't seen that the stand your ground laws have prevented crime in communities where they're in place. And you could say the opposite, that we've seen some pretty horrific gun violence in some of those places. That we don't want to happen here, but I get it. You want to make sure your family and your home is safe, and that's why it's our top priority to make sure the system is working to keep people safe.
Minister, the provincial government, the federal government, the municipal government, and the police services seem to be working together, and there seems to be a high level of cooperation. The feeling in the community, and I have to say this because I hear this on a daily basis, would the response have been, as it took a while for it to ramp up, would it have taken this long? And would, for example, if this happened to Jimmy Patterson, would he be told just leave town and put extra cameras in? Because that's how the business community is feeling they are being treated. Would that be the same? And if not, what message do you have for the business community in Surrey to reassure them that you are working flat out for their safety?
Yeah, and I've heard that too, Jenny, and I have to say it causes me a lot of pain to think that people feel that way, that they think that because of their background and that they're South Asian, that they're not getting the response that they need. And I understand where that pain comes from when communities have faced so many systemic barriers before. And I just want to assure people that it's our top public safety priority. The level of focus that I have, Minister Krieger has, the Premier has, on making sure that people are safe is stepping up every day. And that feeling that it took too long, I'm really sorry about that. And I just want to assure people that it's our top priority. And every time the community has asked for something, we fight to get it. The Bishnoi gang is a terrorist organization, more helicopter resources, better victim supports. We're listening, and we're responding. So we're gonna tackle this together as a community to make sure that those people that want to make us live in fear are pushed out. And it's going to work with the resilience and the beautiful community gathering and connectedness that the South Asian community has, that I'm a part of and that I know is really strong. We're going to do it together. And we're going to make sure as a government that all of the resources that we can put to it or get from the federal government are there to do that.
Minister, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your thoughts with us. Your commitment, personal commitment, I can feel it in your voice. And yes, you are part of the community, and this community is part of the Canadian community. This cannot be just turned into just an issue for the South Asian community, because this is an issue for everyone when it comes to public safety, because today it may be narrowed down to the South Asian community and tomorrow it could expand to anywhere else. And the South Asian community are strong Canadians. They've helped to build this country and they are an integral part. So thank you so much for everything you do. And we look forward to seeing more results.
Okay. Thanks, Jenny. Thanks for having me. Take care.